Welcome back to Let's Build. This is the second and final part of the mansion, air quotes, or what I wanted to be more mansion-esque. Behind the scenes, I went in with MC Edit and I made a sort of oasis sort of area, and you're seeing me chop some of it away to make space for a later build, well, a couple later builds. And here I am starting, because I wanted this to wrap around this pond area, or water oasis, quote unquote. And I'm making a small layout for another build, and I wanted the basis of this build to be, I was like, food. I want an area where food can be created or cooked in some furnaces, and I wanted to take it to an odd. I wanted to take it in an odd direction. So I struggled with this one a little bit. I really struggled to figure out what materials worked best for it, and the style of roof, and at one point I even chopped the majority of the build out and replace it. And I was really unsure about this, but I think it came out really well, which you will see here in a moment. I was pillars along the dock. I wanted them, but I wasn't too sure where to place them and where not to. I wanted it to seem like the dock's not just supposed to be floating, but I didn't want it to seem like I was over placing the pillars, because on the main part of the build, on the entrance to this area, I felt like oak wood was such a large portion of the build. And here I am creating the second part of this building, and you will really be able to watch me struggle to create this. The proportions of the second part were really off. It looked too big in areas, and the framework just didn't really work for it in this area. And I wanted it to work really well. So I put a pin in the exterior for a little bit, and I started working on the interior just a little bit. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of happy with this. So let's start making a way to get up to the second layer. And I didn't want to put a ladder because it seemed too plain. I really wanted stairs, because I feel like just one ladder would just be kind of gross. And the wall here was a little too plain, so it was really bland, and I put in like a bush, I guess you could say. I struggled with the design a little bit, then I just kind of chopped that out and put logs, so as if the logs were like the base of it, a base of the shrub. And I finally make up my mind about the logs here. And I wasn't sure if should have put a roof here, and then I chose not to put a roof on that shorter bit, and I went to work on the roof for this part. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, I mean, it's not great by any means. It's really not great. So with MC Edit, I chop the entire thing out, I get rid of it, and then I go in for a much slimmer look. And then I still think that's pretty gross, actually. So I chop that all out, and I redo the roof with I use just slabs. I think I try to use stairs to give it a more organic look later on, but I don't really like didn't really like the stairs being intermingled with the slabs themselves. So I stuck with, yeah, here I am trying to get the stairs to work. But it still seems, I wanted it to be really, a really gentle slope, but it just didn't work very well. And the stairs made it seem too jagged. So I mess around with it for a little bit. I was like, wow, that looks really bad. So I'm just going through ideas. I'm just cycling through these ideas, trying to figure out ways I could make this. And I back up a little here, and I still think, like, wow, that's really gross. It looks really bad. So I go in and I try to salvage it a little bit. And with what I come up with, looks rather nice. And I thought about putting fences here, a lighter color for fences. And I was thinking about putting a divot in the floor to give it a little bit of depth, but I didn't like that idea. And then I thought about putting wheat boxes or flour boxes on top. And then I was like, yeah, those colors just don't really work. So I took a whole nother approach. I get rid of the fences. I don't think they'll work. And I start to make a smoker of sorts, or like an enhanced furnace, I guess you could say. And I feel like it's still kind of bland on this side, so I put some pillars that I will later connect to the roof, but not completely cover the roof, because it would seem a little too unrealistic, although the majority of it seems relatively unrealistic anyway. But I figured I shouldn't put the roof there, because where would the smoke go? It should be going straight up. It wouldn't have to like curl around the sides. And I was trying to keep the leaf vine idea going, so I wrapped those around the edge there, and then I was like, I'm gonna connect the roof of this to one of these outlying pillars and put a lamp. I feel like that'll look good. And I liked the idea. I thought it looked nice, and I cleaned it up a little bit because it looked really chunky. And I put a stair here, and then I continued to chop it out a little bit to make it flow a lot better. And I think it turned out really well. And I drooped some leaves off to give just to give it a little bit of a color pop, to make it seem less bland with just the oak wood. And then I wanted to find a way to put in this type of stone. In my texture pack, the cracked stone looks like a dark stone brick. I wanted to put it in here, but I didn't think it worked very well with the rest of the build. So I leave it, and instead I just put it behind the leaves, and then I put stairs above the windows to just make a little more seem like it has more depth. And I kept it the way it was. I connected roof segments on the edges from pillar to pillar over the smoker or furnace, like you see there, and I added lamps to the inside, and a small poplar tree on the other side. And I was like, I wanted to make it a 3-part, but I just really wanted to keep building, and I wanted to keep recording. So I keep going, and I needed something on this side. And what actually comes out of this process right here, I don't really like. I will probably go back to change it in a later episode,
You had me at
if
hello.
I ever truly want to. I want to build other things. I have a lot of other things in mind, but it doesn't look too bad, and I really wanted an excuse to use the roof design that I had came up with on the food house, or the smokehouse. I really wanted to use it, but I don't think it turned out very well. I'm either just gonna go back, scrap it all, and just build a completely new building there, or try to find like an actual use for this building, because there's not enough color in it. And I was just really unsatisfied with it. And I thought about putting bricks in here, but that just didn't really look right. But at this point, I didn't particularly care a whole lot, because I just kind of wanted to get it done so I could wrap the dock the rest of the way around. So I do that, and I put in the pillars, using spruce wood for the first two to seem like the water has splashed up against the logs and soaked them with a little bit of water. And I put a little archway here to just kind of give it a little bit of life to this certain area. And then I was like, it's there, I guess. Then I was like, okay, I'll put a pin in that for now. And I come back over here using World Edit. I chop out a little area for a home. And I wanted the shape of this to be very odd. I wanted it to, like, if you ever looked in this direction, you'd be like, well, what is that? The shape of that is really interesting. I want to go look at that. That's what I was really looking for in this, and I really do think I achieved that. I believe it looks really nice, and I wanted it to be 2 layers, and I wanted to kind of build it into this this mountain of sand right here a little bit. And you see me here connecting pillars. I wanted to use brick. I didn't want it to be all wood, and the brick works very well for this. And I didn't really want that poking out a whole lot, so I figured I could put a balcony of sorts right there. It was I got away with myself right there, so I put this in right there to make it an actual box instead of whatever you could call that. And I feel like this use of the cracked stone bricks was very, very, very pretty. I felt like the floor of this could be cracked stone bricks. It contrasts well with the brick and the oak in this build, I believe so. And I wanted to keep the sort of sloped triangular roof going. So I got the pillars ready for that, and I felt like it wasn't big enough, so I put in a little small roof here to add in a room later. And I finish off the roof. I feel like the way I did this roof is much better than the rest, or the other two that I used this design on. I struggled with it a little bit because I didn't want it to look so uniform, and I didn't really want it to look as bad as the first one. So I feel like the way it turned out was very nice. I thought it flowed quite well, and it looked really nice. It didn't look too jagged. It didn't look too steep. It looked like it flew, like it was gonna flow very well with the rest of the build. And then I thought I should connect it to this end of the roof like I did the other one, and then hang another light. I thought that would look quite well, or go quite well with the rest, to give it some life of sorts. And then I went in here, and like I said, I was going to put in cracked stone brick for the floor. I break this part out to put in a wall, and then I kind of realized I only really had one wall. So I had to go in here, and it's the way I did it, it's very odd, but I think it worked quite well. Because what I really had was, to begin with, was one wall and a roof. And without the other wall, you're just kind of staring at sand, which wasn't really needed. So I made a pathway up behind the house, and then I put in a little window, and then I put in that pathway so you get up on that balcony. I put in another window. I wasn't sure what to do right here, and then I realized to myself I didn't have a way to get up here onto the top. So I finished that out. I saw that hole, so I go in here to see what I can do. And I thought that was fine. I go back, and I felt it was lacking some depth, so I put in a little C in the wall. And I'm struggling with the staircase. I wasn't sure if there was any other way I could have made it better. Maybe I could have put slabs, but I don't know if I really would have liked that, personally. I put in another window, because I felt like we were lacking some depth. I put in some shrubbery on the side. I felt like we needed even more depth, so I look at options for that, but I just go with the slabs. And I felt this was also lacking a bit of attention. I finish up the pathway, and I just feel like it's missing just a little bit of detail, but I can't really put my finger on it. So I finish off this floor a little bit, and then I walk down. I just put a little shrub right there. I try to finish up the shrubs right here. I put some lights under them for some ambient light, and then I chop this out. I put stairs, and I was like, I can chop out the rest. I think it'll look nice. I think that looks good. And I was happy with it, but I felt like it was lacking a bit more, so I put a little leafy archway and some more cracked stone brick. And I take a screenshot to show my buddies, like, is there anything else I could really do with this? And for the time being, I just put in a few more windows. I put in stairs by the pillars to make it seem like they were anchored to the ground. And here I am just kind of going through here, making a new room, because it's just a very odd building. I go in, I put the glass in, and then I realize, like, I've kind of abused the water itself. Like, the thing I wanted to base this build around, I was abusing. So I go in here and I do a little bit to it, but I don't do a whole lot. But what I did, I think it's enough to make it work.
Hello.
So I figured I could custom build a palm tree, and I feel like that'll give it a lot more life, because the middle seems really empty, and it's just really an eyesore without something there. So I finished the palm tree, and these slabs I'm not crazy proud of. I don't think it works well with it. I felt it was a little too tall on the bottom, so I cleaned it up. And I put a bit of grass around here to just give it a little bit more color. It seemed kind of bland. And I felt it was good where it was. And I stuck with it. I feel like this build, I'm happy to say that this build is complete.
Can't tell the truth.
I'm very proud of this build. It came out very interesting, quite unique, and that's what I was looking for. And I want to thank you for joining me. I really appreciate you watching this. Have a nice day.